I understand that Treasury collects monthly data showing the value of its TARP portfolio. Is there any reason why that should not be made public?
In our view, absent some maybe very, very limited circumstances, we believe it should be made public. The one argument that was one of the arguments that was offered against doing this was that it may impinge Treasury's ability to liquidate some of those assets. But frankly, we think that just like any asset manager, any mutual fund, the investors have a right to know what the value of their assets are. Frankly, the one good example of when you don't know is Ranking Member Iss's example of a Madoff-type hedge fund where investors can't see what's behind the numbers. And we think this is an essential part of transparency.
Right. We concerned about conflict of interest. Treasury hired 9 private firms to be asset managers for the TARP Public-Private Investment Program, including large companies such as BlackRock, GE Capital, Real Estate, Invesco, and others. All of these large firms are engaged in extensive private investment activities. Yet Treasury has refused to require these firms to establish firewalls between their employees and who makes investment decisions on behalf of the government and those who manage private funds. Why, my question is, why does Treasury oppose firewalls at these firms to prevent conflict of interest and collusion?
We have been pushing this recommendation over the last couple of months. We've consulted with the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, which operates similar programs. They have asset managers both buying and selling assets. And even Treasury itself, we've taken a look at some of their programs. And one constant is that when asset managers receive market-moving information and have the ability to or know about information to set market prices, a firewall comes attached to that responsibility in every program other than in the PPIP program. We've made this recommendation. In our quarterly report, Treasury has detailed, I think in a lengthy letter, their explanation as to why they're not requiring this. In short, they say it's not practical in this program for a variety of different reasons. We strongly disagree. We think that the taxpayer is entitled to the exact same protection that the Federal Reserve requires when it hires an asset manager, and we believe the same protections should and must be part of the TARP program.
Is there a downside to this? Is there a downside?
Treasury argues that they make a number of different arguments. One is that it may be more expensive, that there may be a limit to the firms that are willing to participate absent a wall. All of these may be valid arguments, but from our perspective, when tilting the scales are the tremendous dangers that come from not having a wall, from being able to take advantage of conflict of interest to wildly recognize profits in different parts of the firm, to the reputational risk. People are going to ask the question, why does BlackRock operate under a wall when they're managing funds for the Federal Reserve, but not when they're managing for the Treasury? And if there are incredible profits, there's going to be a lot of explaining that needs to get done.
Let me, I find your testimony quite amazing. Do I understand you correctly? Well, let me put it this way. Does Treasury ask TARP recipients what they are doing with the money? Do they ask them the question?
Overall, no. They've asked, Bank of America, Citigroup, and AIG are the only capital recipients that are required to report the use of funds. Some of the other extraordinary assistants also have reporting requirements. But as far as the rest of the recipients, Treasury says no. And they say they won't do it because it won't be meaningful. It won't be reliable information. So, of course, the question we ask is, if it's a meaningless exercise, why are you doing it with respect to Citigroup, Bank of America, and very recently AIG? And we haven't really gotten an answer to that question.
I think it's very, very important because, in creating this in discussions early on, it was about job creation. And, of course, I think that we need to have the information determined in terms of what they're doing with it, because when I look at the fact that in the minority community that the unemployment rate is 15.5%, and of course it's running 9% generally, so it appears to me that that's a legitimate kind of question that should be raised, because we feel and recognize that job creation is important.
Of course, Mr. Chairman, I couldn't agree with you more. And what Treasury does is it puts out lending survey information. So it's already collecting information from each of the financial institutions reporting on lending. But as our audit demonstrates, that's only part of the story. It doesn't talk about all the other things that banks are doing with TARP funds, investments, retaining capital cushions against future losses, all these types of things which goes right to the heart of the question that you're posing.
Yeah. Let me ask you, did the TARP recipients have any trouble telling you what they were doing with the money?
We had a variety of responses. We had 364 responses, but nearly every single financial institution was able to provide us with meaningful information on this survey. And I have to remind you, this is a voluntary survey. What we're recommending is that Treasury actually require this information. But we just asked, and we still got very meaningful responses.
Is there any reason why the public should not be told what is happening with the TARP money, how it's being used?
I can't think of one. The one argument that was presented to us was that it would be a meaningless endeavor. I think our audit report proves that to be false. I think that banks can and should be required to report on their use of funds. I think that this Congress can make better policy decisions. Frankly, I think it will assist the Treasury in making better decisions if they have a better understanding of what's being done with funds as we continue in the bailouts and the continue of the administration of the TARP.
Thank you very much, Mr. Borowski.